Today we're working on the Marguerite Waltz from the book Solos for Young Violists by Barbara Barber. Welcome back. Welcome to the studio. My name is Cassie and I'm a professional violist and teaching artist. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. So today we're working on the Marguerite Waltz, and this is the third song in the book Solos for Young Violists by Barbara Barber. We're going to do a tutorial, and then we're going to do a slow playthrough and an at-tempo playthrough. If you want to skip ahead to any of those, I put timestamps in the comments below, so just check down there and click on that link to skip ahead. So we're going to go measure by measure. Let's go to playing position. And in the very first measure, I just want to address a few things. We've got a dotted quarter note rhythm. So that's the second note. And in my head, I'm saying whatever the beat number is. So if it's beat 1, I'm going to say 1 and 2. If this one falls on beat 2, so in my head, I'm going to say 2 and 3, just to make sure that I'm counting that rhythm correctly. And we've also got a C sharp, our high third finger, to contend with because we have sharps in the key signature. So in my head, in that very first measure, I'm thinking 1, 2, and 3. Same thing in this measure, 2 and 3. And that's just to make sure that I'm playing that dotted rhythm long enough. If I don't count, it could be kind of guessed, kind of approximated. We want to be really exact with our rhythms. So going from the first measure, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2. Now here, looking ahead between the third and the fourth measure, I've got a second finger on the D string, but I also have a second finger on the A string starting in measure 4. So instead of hopping my finger like this from string to string, I'm going to cover it. So what it looks like, if I'm not in playing position, is that my finger is covering both strings. It's not going to hop back and forth between the two. So why don't we practice that? I'm starting in the third measure on that open D. And then before I set that 2, I'm going to make sure it's covering both strings. That way my bow just has to go between the D string and the A string. Let's try that one more time. Cover both. Moving on, we've got that same rhythm. 2 and 3. Low 1 for D sharp. Low 1 for G sharp. And I'm not going to scoop my 1 up. I'm just going to put my low 2 right next door to my low 1. And then clear that out, starting in the next measure, and go back to first position. So really that G sharp is in what we call half position. So I'm scooting backwards towards the peg box. And instead of doing 1, 1 and scooting it up, I'm just going to use my low 2. The next measure, which is measure 13, this is just a repeat of the beginning section. So we're back to 2 and 3. Cover that fifth, so put your 2 on both strings. Low 1. Rehearsal B is exactly the same as the beginning, so I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit to the pickup note to rehearsal C. There's a key change here. We no longer have C sharps, and for these eighth notes, I want to be in the middle of the bow. Short, short. Now, when I'm at tempo in that third measure of C for those eighth notes, I can be on the string. Or if I'm going the right tempo, the bow's just going to kind of start bouncing on its own, and I'm going to let that happen, which sounds like this. That doesn't really happen for us if I'm going too slow. So depending on your final tempo, it could be on the string or it could be off the string. If you need help with that off the string stroke, spiccato is what it's called, I'm going to put a link up above and I'll put it in the description below so you can watch the video that I made on that bow stroke. So we're continuing on. This is the last line of that first page, or measure 42. That line just means hold for the full tempo here, full value. And again, we're going to be in the middle of the bow, either on the string or off the string. Now, if you find those eighth notes, or they're kind of like a puzzle, like your fingers are fumbling over each other, I'm going to give you a little practice exercise for that. So I'm going to set my 2, and I'm going to change up the rhythm just a little bit. So I'm going to do, and then set the next note. Set my low 2, set my open, set my low 2, open. Let's try that again. So it's short, long, set, 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 set. Once you feel like you've got that rhythm solid, you may need to stop the video to practice that for a little bit, and that's totally fine. We're going to switch that rhythm around to be long short. So I'm going to elongate the first note, set 3, set 3, set 3, set 3, set 3, set 3. Now by set, what I mean is my finger is going down on the string. I'll show you a little bit closer. This is what set means. Set, set. So notice I'm not waiting for my bow to move. My finger is setting first. Set 3, set 3, set 3. The not waiting for your bow to move is really important. So your finger precedes or comes before your bow motion. If you practice it with those odd even rhythms, that's what I call it. So it's either short long or long short. It's going to even it out. I don't know why it works. It's just magical. It works. So if you're having trouble in those eighth note passages, give it a shot and let me know in the comments below if that worked for you. Continuing on, this is the last two measures of the very first page. We've got an accent, then an immediate or subito piano. So I want to be in the middle of the bow, and that same idea. It's either going to be on the string or off the string with a crescendo. Another accent. Now I shift to third position here. If you want my fingerings and my bowings and everything that I write at my part, I post that on Patreon, and I have a link in the description for that as well if you'd like to join our community there. So this is measure 49. I'm going to shift to third position here. Back to first position in the next measure, which is 51. And we've also got 1-1. It's kind of similar to that 2-2 that we had. We don't want to hop strings. So I'm going to make sure as I set that 1, it goes down on both strings. What I don't want to see is this, where you're hopping. Hop. I want to cover both of those at the same time. So I'm starting in measure 51, which is that measure we just talked about. Then I add a crescendo here. Crescendo here. Middle of the bow for these eighth notes. Short, short, short. Accent, subito piano. So to practice that, you might need to practice stopping a few times before you proceed onto that piano. So this is the measure before D. It starts up bow. I'm going to stop and make sure that I've taken the arm weight out to get that piano dynamic. What we don't want to hear is, oops, I forgot. That's supposed to be a piano there. So I'm going to practice stopping, set for piano, and proceed with that crescendo. So again, you might need to stop the video, practice that a few times. That's totally fine. This section at D also repeats, so I'm going to just skip ahead a little bit. I'm looking at measure 67. So here I'm in third position. I've shifted up in the same spot that I did before, but I'm starting 67 in third position for 3 notes, then shifting back to first position. Now again, all of these eighth notes, depending on your tempo, they might be on the string. That might come off the string if I go a little bit faster. So again, it all depends on whatever tempo you're comfortable with. Looking ahead, we've got a whole bunch of really long notes here. Whole bow for all of these. Then third position again. Now the stuff that we have at E is again the same thing that we had at the beginning. So the form of this piece overall is we've got an A section at the beginning. We've got a middle section that's contrasting that B section. And then when we get to rehearsal E, this is like the A section again. The only thing that changes is the ending. So that very last note, we've got a third finger on the A string, but I like to spice it up a little bit, and I'm going to do a harmonic. So my palm is going to touch my upper bout, and I'm going to drop my third finger wherever my palm is touching, and that should be generally where that harmonic is. To get that to sound, I'm not going to push into the string, so I'm not putting any finger weight into the string. I'm sitting on top of it and letting it ring. You may need to go fishing around for a little bit, but you should feel it when the string starts to kind of vibrate on its own. And again, we're not pushing into the string, we're just sitting right on top of it. That's where our harmonic is. So that's it for our tutorial. We're gonna move on to the slow playthrough, and I'm gonna set my metronome to quarter note equals 1/16, and then our at tempo playthrough will be kind of close to what the piece suggests. I'm going to do the dotted half note equals 60, not 66. It's just a little bit slower. So this is our quarter note. And we'll do our slow playthrough first. 1, 2, 3, ready, set, go. Reset, frog. Skipping ahead to our next entrance. 1, 2, 3, ready, set, go. Nice job on the slower tempo playthrough. We're going to do our at tempo playthrough now. My dotted quarter note is 60, so every click equals 3 beats. So when I do my count off, it will be 1, 2, 3, ready, set, go. It's a little bit faster, this one. Go to playing position. 1, 2, 3, ready, set, go. Thanks so much for joining me today. I really hope you found this video useful. If there's anything I didn't cover that you have questions about, please post that in the comments below. I really enjoy trying to help from afar. As always, thanks again for joining me, and happy practicing.